It is that time of the year where we celebrate the NGC Bocas Lit Fest. So to speak with us this morning is Director of NGC Bocas Lit Literary Festival, Marina Salandi Brown, and of course the title sponsor, NGC's Lisa Burkett, who is the Communications Manager. Good morning to you, ladies. Good morning. Are you hearing me?
Yes, perfectly.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, Natalie.
Right. How are you all doing?
Wonderful.
Well, we're hungry after that recipe.
Oh, I could imagine. I mean, when we're doing what's cooking, I really pay attention because I like to cook and I like to try new things. So that one definitely looks interesting.
And Natalie, I love to have breakfast.
Oh, that makes two of us, darling. Two of us. So, Marina Salandi Brown, let us start with you. This year, the launch of the festival will be the 18th of September. What can we expect this year, especially how you have to be maneuvering everything virtually? The first time for Bocas Lit Fest during this pandemic.
Well, the thing about it is we've been jumping around since March, April. This is our 10th year, and in January, Lisa joined us in celebrating the 10 years since the Bocas Lit Festival started. And we were supposed to do events all during the course of the year. We started out thinking, yes, let's do something really special all year. We'll make the festival slightly smaller at the end of April, beginning of May, which is its usual time slot, you know, before the rainy weather and all that sort of stuff. And of course, we then had to postpone it until September, when we thought that COVID would have disappeared and that we would be able to invite all our, you know, diaspora writers and visitors. And of course, none of that has happened. So at the very last minute, but we've had to prepare with, you know, two things in mind, really. Could we have a real festival with lots of people around and doing all the things that, being physically in the same space can do? Or should we go virtual? And it turns out that we've had to go completely virtual. And, I don't know what it's going to be like, to tell you the truth. I mean, we don't know what it's going to be exactly looking like, but we know what the content is. Yes. And that is what I can tell you about. I mean, the content is a lot of what we would normally do, which is readings, discussions. We're going to have stand and deliver, which is a really important part of what we do, which is making space for new writers. We're going to have prize-giving ceremonies. Not ceremonies, but handover of prizes and all of that sort of usual fare. So you'll see a lot of what would normally be in the festival during these days, which is Friday the 18th to Sunday the 20th. But all during the course of the year, we've been rolling out lots of things that would normally be in the festival, such as workshops, events with children, for example. We won't be doing any children's events specifically during the festival, but you know, a lot of the flavor of what we do would be there, and always on our website, you can see what we've been doing.
And I see that a milestone is to be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Black Power movement, as well as Merle Hodges' book. So talk to us a little bit about that. I think those are two very, very interesting and changing kind of, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Exciting event for this year's Bocas Lit Fest.
Well, in the 1970, we've been commemorating all those big events. I mean, the 1990 coup, that was an anniversary, which we did last month with the launch of a new book. The 1970 revolution, we're looking at what have we learned from all those events, not just here, but also other events that have happened throughout the Caribbean. And that leads into the event on the Sunday, which includes P.J. Patterson, the former Jamaican Prime Minister, and the former Attorney General of Belize. We're going to have Andy Knight, who is at UWI here in St. Augustine, who's in charge of the International Relations Institute, and someone else from Guyana, talking about what leaders have learned going forward. And all of that comes out, too, of the events on the which is a really good event, which I'll push people towards seeing as well on the Fridays, Future Friday. And that is just about a lot of the speculative fiction that people are writing now. But what is interesting about that is we ask, how can we see our region, leaders, everybody, after the COVID-19? So the whole feeling of the festival is about where we've been, where are we going, what have we learned, and what can we do with that learning?
Right. And I'm excited to see the new writers. You know, one of the things about the Bocas Lit Fest is that the talent is just phenomenal. I don't know that anybody could question the veracity of the people who we see as a part of the Bocas Lit Fest. But let me bring get Lisa in on the conversation. How does it feel to be the title sponsor for this event for the last 9 to 10 years?
Well, I think what Marina and her team have been able to achieve over the past 10 years, we've been title sponsor for 9 out of those 10, with a festival that has seen such significant growth regionally and internationally, of course, and the popularity it has achieved since its inception. I think it's remarkable, and it's a model to emulate. NGC has always sought to use its sustainability programs to effect change and development, of course, in the lives of our stakeholders. And this festival has really done that. You know, the number of emerging writers that have been profiled, the whole exposure of the writers internationally, that has been one of the success factors with Bocas Lit Fest. The festival itself aligns with a lot of our sustainability areas in terms of preservation of our arts and culture, and so it's a good fit for NGC as a corporate sponsor.
And were you surprised by how people reacted to it? I mean, it's a literary festival. A lot of times we talk about Caribbean people as if somehow we don't read, we're not interested in these things, but the amount of talent within the Caribbean, the amount of authors, writers, poets, it's just so phenomenal. Were you surprised by how people responded to it and the kind of growth that it has experienced over the 10 years?
I'm not surprised by it, because I think we want to say that we are not readers, but when we read about ourselves and when we see ourselves in Caribbean films as well, it hits home that we do have something to contribute to the rest of the world. And Bocas Lit Fest has grown over the years in terms of attendance and not only writers and publishers attending, but the public as well. With the children outreach program, which of course Marina said we're not doing this year, but with that, children in the communities have been able to tell stories and see those stories published in books. Right. And see their names in books, which is a great achievement and is very motivational as well for new writers.
Right. Mrs. Salandi Brown, I know that this has to be done virtually, but could you just tell us what are the downsides of doing this entire thing virtual and how people can be a part of Bocas Lit Fest this year?
I don't find there's anything down in it. The only thing that's down in it really is that that particular air of festivity is not going to be there, people rubbing shoulders. One of the important things that we've been able to do, and I want to thank Lisa very much for the support of the National Gas Company, because we couldn't really have done it without them. And I want to go back very quickly to something you said about about people, thinking they're not readers, etc. One of the things that NGC did, which was critical, was NGC realized that we needed to tell people about this, and they actually supported us in the promotion through actually making funds available for us to do a lot of promotional work of trying to get the message across. And without that, it would not have been able to establish all of this stuff. And and it has been behind us all the way. And without that, it absolutely would not have been possible. And we get a long-term funding so we can plan ahead. As a lot of people who fund projects such as ours don't actually look at sustainability, and that is something I want to cry out for and advocate, especially these times. It's not just about what you're going to do now, it's what you're going to do in the future. And I think involving children is terribly, terribly important. There's no downside to this, because what we're doing is we started live streaming about 3 or 4 years ago, and we already reach an international audience, and we like to be the best that we can be. So we're actually trying to come up with ways of preserving the elements in our festival and make it special. I like to boast about this. I'm not a boastful person usually, but I like to boast about the fact that we've been chosen as one of the top 20 in the world. And I think it's because we bring some of that Caribbean flavor to the perhaps kind of rather rarefied air of literature.
Yeah.
And one of the things we've done this year, which I'm very excited to see how it works out, is Lisa Helen Agostini and Louis Leasing. We've commissioned them to come up with a sort of equivalent of a road novel where there are these two characters. One of them is an alter ego, spending the whole 3 days in a car trying to find the NGC Bocas Fest. And there's all the conversations that happen between them about literature and poetry doesn't rhyme and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that. We've also commissioned, we're still going to have the extempo debate in between. We've commissioned some signature music. So, there's a lot of stuff, and in the gaps in between the events, we're actually going to have those filled with things that make it special. So I'm really, really, really excited. No downtime, nothing to be sad about. It's going to be, quite an experience. I look forward to lots of new people joining us. Right. And it's very easy to log on to see us because you can do it via our website, which is bocaslitfest.com, or on facebook.com/bocaslitfest, and also on youtube.com/bocaslitfest. So we're going to be there, and afterwards it'll be up, for people to continue seeing. So I think it's going to be huge. What I don't want to happen, perhaps the only possible downside, is that people are going to say, oh yes, you've got to do this forever. Because having it virtually is one thing, it's an asset, but you can never really totally recoup the vitality of a real physical festival. Because one of the things we do is we allow writers to meet one another. How else is Marlon James going to meet, who's the hottest, biggest contemporary Caribbean writer? How is he going to meet a new fledgling writer from Arima or Sangre Grande, who's come to the festival? And that's what happens.
Hopefully the pandemic will be over at some point so that by the next Lit Fest, we can enjoy all of these meetings and greetings of the minds and literature. But we have to close off here. So I want to thank you very much, Mrs. Salandi Brown and Lisa Burkett, for being with us this morning. The launch of the Bocas Lit Fest is the 18th of September. You can check them out at www.bocaslitfest.com. Also on Facebook, facebook.com/bocaslitfest, and youtube.com/Bocas Lit Fest. We take a break and we'll be back with you.
This is more than just music.